Kia ora koutou, no mai haere mai, and welcome. Ko Graham Sattler ho, kai whakahaere, CEO of the Christchurch Symphony Orchestra, Otatai, Christchurch, Aotearoa, New Zealand. Sorry, translators, that was neither English nor was it German, of course. It was a wee bit, as we say in New Zealand, of Māori, te reo Māori, by which I think fairly clearly I was just saying hello, welcome. Thank you for being here. My name is Graham Sattler, as it says on the can, and I am the CEO, as I say, of the Christchurch Symphony Orchestra. Christchurch, which we can see on that map, apologies to the rest of the world for squashing it up, but the important bit's way down low on the right, in what I lovingly refer to as the Scandinavia of the South. It's not dissimilar where I currently live in Christchurch. Over there on the right, we can see that little side of New Zealand. In terms of the environment, the winters aren't quite as cold, but the summers are very similar. And the thing, however, that is very different is the legacy, the heritage of support, government support for the arts and for music and music education. That's not a complaint at all. You may remember my beautiful genius colleague, Teoti, yesterday afternoon, referring actually to things, being surprisingly flattering of me and my organisation, but also mentioning just a tiny little mention of resourcing in that country where I currently live. So again, not a complaint, just an observation. The interesting thing, the positive thing about that is, where I live, I am fortunate enough to be a little more brazen, a little more flexible with the way that I apply the resources of a symphony orchestra, very much a Western European-inspired heritage arts organisation. I have a lot more freedom, I think, than my colleagues in the real Scandinavia and in parts of the world where the structure of and the strictures, if you like, of heritage arts organisations are a little probably firmer, not for any bad reasons, but you know, it's a little firmer probably, and there is arguably, from the colleagues I've spoken to in many other parts of the world, I think we have a little more flexibility, which is lucky because I'm Australian and we are outrageous in the way that we approach structures and formality. We don't appear to like it at all. Hang on, what else do we need to talk about there? Nothing. That's a provocation and a half, isn't it? Isn't all music community music? What sort of a ridiculous thing is that to suggest? Again, I'm Australian and that's the sort of thing we do. So, I saw the provocations, no, the posts in the call for presentations for this wonderful conference. And by the way, I am absolutely thrilled to be here. This is such a well-organised and exciting, it's a well-organised conference, but it's also a really exciting time to be here. So that's a point I need to make. But I saw the prompts in the call for presentations, which were, of course, what potential and possible challenges does community music hold in different contexts? How can we anchor community music practice in institutions, cities and communities? What are the conditions for success? What are the barriers? Who are the partners we can initiate, who can initiate and enable change in institutional contexts? What is needed to change established structures? And how can we enable critical reflection of all partners involved? And I thought, I can have a go at that. So, sorry, back to that one. So I have a sort of a dual role as a CEO of an orchestra, and I also have some involvement in a university in the part of the world that I live, which is great. A university that has just introduced a minor in community music. This is very exciting because there ain't nothing like it in my part of the world other than that. It's the very first, it's the beginning, which is great. It's a small step, but it's a really important one. I've been advocating for it since just before I got to the country nearly 4 years ago. So that's exciting. Bit of background, my PhD had a focus on socio-cultural impacts of group music making in non-metropolitan areas particularly. I am a community music leader, trainer, practitioner, have been so, and an advocate for over 20 years. I am responsible for the viability and sustainability of a heritage Western European art form steeped in formality and hierarchical tradition. And of course, the symphony orchestra is really where hierarchy lives and prospers and enjoys, paddling around in interesting places. I'm not being facetious. I'm also responsible for the development and maintenance of supported, inclusive, participatory music that operates on the principle of hospitality and the unconditional welcome. And thank you to our colleague Lee Higgins for that language. I'm responsible for a comprehensive and a connected participatory music landscape. So we might be starting to think or see that maybe there's some tension between hyperformality and inclusion, cultural democracy, etc., etc. I personally don't see that tension, but anyway, that's fine. Some slides, some lovely pictures of what our orchestra, our symphony orchestra, looks like throughout this presentation. This is not all our orchestral members. This is our orchestral members with a completely open invitation to community members for an improvised performance, if you call it. We were performing in an art gallery with an expert in conduction, the art of gesturing, non-traditional gesturing for improvised group music making. Ricky Pirahi, a practitioner from the North Island of New Zealand. So you'll see some pictures of what a symphony orchestra looks like in my world. I don't need to be specific about the nature of these images, but you'll start to see what our symphony orchestra looks like. Now, the CMA, Community Music Activity Commission vision statement, for those of you who are not aware, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and Teote, of course, raised some of these things. We talked about values. So the CMA believes that everyone has the right and ability to make, create, and enjoy their own music, and that active music making should be encouraged and supported at all ages and all levels of society, which, for whatever value it is to say this, I believe this firmly too. Community music activity strives to work towards the principles of inclusivity, equity, cultural democracy, social justice and hospitality, and their context-dependent applications in making music. So this is a premise. More pictures of what the Christchurch Symphony Orchestra looks like. Some of us are older than that, but we can talk about details. I can answer all sorts of questions later, but this is imagery. That photo on the left is about my favourite photo in the world. This is a program, not a project, but a program that we run with people who are in various stages of dementia. And that's one of my favourite photos. The one on the right's not bad either, but again, this is what a symphony orchestra looks like in my world. Now, the orchestra's purpose and vision is to serve and support a comprehensive and connected participatory music landscape. Now, that includes professional musicians, it includes semi-professional, including educational institution-based musicians, and also amateur music making. Each component of the whole, being respected and valued for the part it plays, can support strong and connected community through music. Now, I'm reading most of this because maybe not everybody is comfortable reading English, and also not everybody is necessarily sighted to the same degree. So I'm not apologising for reading everything, but that's why I am. Also, an orchestra that operates in alignment with the principles. We've seen these before not so long ago: inclusivity, equity, cultural democracy, social justice and hospitality. An orchestra that programs and plans from the orientation of engagement and community relevance. Our purpose, our motivation, our orientation is about engagement and community relevance. These are not judgmental statements about any other organisation. This is just why I have the job that I currently have, because I happen to believe and we evidence that this can be the model, we're not alone, of a symphony orchestra. We're an organisation that recognises the responsibility and privilege of leadership. Leadership is sometimes a contested or a troubled term. I brazenly use it because I think I know what we mean by leadership, and I'm always happy to argue it in terms of whether it necessarily means power imbalance. There's another photo, another image of the Christchurch Symphony Orchestra. I've only been there 4 years. I can't say the word particularly well. I hope you'll forgive me for that. Christchurch Symphony Orchestra in our day-to-day operations. Now, I've used the words leadership and engagement as pivotal terms for our operational and our philosophical, but our operational model. And when we're talking about leadership, and I will own this, I'm talking about facilitation, I'm talking about guidance, I'm talking about support, I'm talking about generosity, I'm talking about humility, I'm talking about care, I'm talking about responsibility. There are other things, but these are kind of guiding principles in terms of my understanding, and I hope across the organisation and our community, demonstration of leadership engagement. When I'm talking about engagement, I'm not talking about something that's static. I'm talking about active engagement. I'm talking about occupying the attention or efforts of people. I'm talking about involving, interesting, engrossing, absorbing. Lots of ing, it's a doing word, right? That's what we're talking about. This actually was my first week in the job, and I decided to go out and dust off my trombone. I'm in there somewhere, which was rather lovely. It was way better than the office on that day. So, can all group music activity be community music? The easy answer is no, of course, there are two apparently conflicting premises here, right? There's participation for all, inclusion, social, cultural democracy, etc. That's a premise. There's an apparent conflict there with participation for the highly qualified. Like, who's on stage playing Rachmaninoff's Second Symphony? It's most likely to be, and it definitely is, highly qualified, highly trained, highly skilled professional musicians who we employ. But can the unifying factors outweigh the differentiators? So the who and the how is, seemingly mutually exclusive parameters of professional performance versus non-audition come one, come all group activity. But then when we look at the why and the what of both of those situations, entities, premises, engagement, personal and collective meaning, societal understanding and cohesion, those things are common. None of these photos are particularly staggering, but this is the Christchurch Symphony Orchestra at work. Is it apparent what that photo is, just out of interest? What that image is? Is it apparent what that cohort is? It's a men's prison. I just wondered, because I look at some of these and I think, it's obvious. Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. One of the convenient things, it's probably the only one, about the pandemic times was that I didn't need to worry about distorting the faces of the men in this photo. Or the men, and there are also some people there identifying as women. So here we are at the conference prompts. So, the potential and possible challenges for community music in different contexts. So my suggestion is that both community music and professional art music are in danger of withering, particularly in increasingly diverse communities with diminishing resources and diminishing political support. Facilitators and supporters of both those realms have the responsibility to advocate. The responsibility, in my mind, to advocate, to educate, and to lead. Now, how do we anchor community music practice in institutions, cities, communities? My suggestion is that informed advocacy, I know I'm reusing that word, but it's a meaty one. Informed advocacy that articulates the socio-cultural, the emotional, and the artistic benefits of musicking across community offers a meaningful and effective mechanism for anchoring community music practice in institutions. And I mean, we're in a place right here, right now, that does exactly that. This is an institution that does that, as do we, slightly different ways. Well, we're slightly different institutions, that's actually what I mean. A meaningful and effective mechanism for anchoring CM practice, community music practice in institutions, in cities and communities. Our city is the second largest city in New Zealand, in Aotearoa. It has 393,000 people in the city at the moment, I think. Not so long ago, 11, 13, whatever years ago, and since then, like many parts of the world, it experienced some severe trauma, and the population withdrew, and just now it's back at the level that it was at the end of 2010. So I only mention that in terms of scope. So it's a small city. It's the second largest city in New Zealand. Okay. A few more pickies of what the Christchurch Symphony Orchestra does. You see the woman on the left who looks like she's applauding with one hand, and she looks confused because actually she's our principal oboe player. Don't know what she's doing with the oboe. Anyway, that's why she looks like she doesn't know what she's doing. So it's starting to look a little bit more like an orchestra. This is a photo from our youth development program. We have 5 streams that run across pretty well all of the cohorts, all of the varieties, if you like, of disadvantage and marginalisation that we're aware of in our community. But, you know, how inclusive is inclusive enough? The answer, of course, is just a little bit more. We're nearly there, Matt, which is great. So the other conference prompts: conditions for success and barriers. Visible, effectively facilitated engagement, the doing word, at whatever level of musical proficiency, across sectors and component cohorts, creates and sustains conditions for success. And by my definition of success is enjoyable, accessible, personally meaningful music making. Using language that the audience, that the community understands and shares. Understanding that inclusivity, again, is not a static condition. And the barriers are any constraints that limit the engagement, the accessibility and visibility. How do we identify partners to initiate and enable change? 2 minutes and 10 seconds according to my watch. How do we identify the partners? All organisations, to my mind, involved in music as core business or function can initiate and enable change in institutional context. It's not necessarily easy, but it's about will, it's about enthusiasm, it's about energy, it's about confidence. Not arrogance, confidence. And actively identifying common aims and objectives, and advocating for results-based collaboration. Results aren't the important thing, but in terms of advocating, we're getting closer and closer. This is our wonderful Māori artist in residence, Mahina Ina Kingi Kaui. We are the only orchestra in New Zealand, the first one to have a Māori artist in residence, which is interesting. And that's Tangapora, which is the most sort of ancient instrument type in the Pacific area. And not an unusual sort of photo, big outdoor concerts. We are on the final slide. How to change established structures. I believe it's confidence, capability, compassion and commitment, accidental alliteration there, by the way, required to change established structures. To enable critical reflection for all partners, I believe that critical reflection can be a function of commitment to relevance, commitment to informed leadership, a shared commitment to societal relevance, and consensus as to the meaning of community. Boy, that's a can of worms or a hornet's nest or some sort of metaphor, isn't it? The meaning of community. I love throwing that one in there. So in general, making change with community music, this conference theme, as I remember it, advocacy is our responsibility, as is leadership. Explaining its importance and its possibilities is our task. If it's a burden, explaining that, we should stop. We should leave it to somebody else. We shouldn't overstate music's importance. We don't need to, but we shouldn't, I believe. We shouldn't overstate our importance. And I think we need to remember that music is ubiquitous. It's not going to stop without us. It might not be what we want it to be. It might be different, but we can't pretend that without us, it's going to stop. One further thing, if I may, Matt. I've just been thinking about the Möbius strip. So many of us might know about the Möbius strip, that tricky thing invented by a couple of German mathematicians in the 19th century, where if you have a long strip of paper and you join the ends, but you just give it a half turn and then you join it, it has this beautiful thing whereby, even though it appears to have two surfaces, if you follow the surface around, you find that it only has one surface. Try it at home. It's quite safe, although you might get a paper cup. And I just wonder, I'm thinking at the moment that music and engagement is like the Möbius strip, in that it might appear to be two different things, but you continue along one and you find it's kind of, at some mysterious point, it might just and could just become the other. And look, the orchestra also looks like that. Thank you.